I think for a lot of folks, they look at the work of the first January 6th committee, and if there was a list of priorities on their committee database, it would have just one, get Trump. But I know that you have a much wider net, a much larger scope. Tell us what your priorities are going to be.
Well, we're going to pick up where we left off last time, which we were on a quest for documents that clearly were not preserved. I know that there's been a lot of questions and PolitiFacts out there of whether documents were deleted. I never accused anyone of deleting documents except for some videos that they pretty much admitted they had deleted, but clearly documents were missing. And, we were able to recover a significant number of the documents that were not preserved by the original committee. So we're going to continue on that quest, because just from the documents that we were able to obtain during the last committee, were very revealing of the mission of the original Select Committee, Pelosi Select Committee, which was do whatever you need to do to lay the blame at Trump. Don't let facts get in the way. And in fact, that when facts did get in the way, they just decided, well, we'll move those documents out of the way and not preserve them. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to uncover there was a predetermined narrative. There's no question about it. And there was little to no investigation or reporting onto the actual security failures of the Capitol, which was their number one priority. But they just decided to ignore that. So we're going to be looking at that as well. Not just who was it that got into the Capitol, but how was an unarmed mob able to overcome U.S. Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police, and get access into what should be one of the most secured capitals or buildings in the nation?
Yeah, that's such an important question. And you did so much in the last Congress to really help us understand those failures. And yet we got a lot more to learn. One of the big questions that a lot of the folks I talk to, including retired FBI agents, have is why were so many paid informants in the crowd and what were they doing there that day? Can you give us an update on what you learned so far and what you hope to learn in the next phase of this investigation?
Well, one thing that we have learned, and this came on the tail end of the Biden administration when their Department of Justice admitted that they had more than 24 paid informants embedded in the crowd. And so my question is, I'm not surprised. Our FBI does pay to have informants through different organizations, and their primary job is intelligence, to provide information. But with that many paid informants being in the crowd, we want to know how many were in the crowd, how many were in the building. But I also want to know, were they paid to inform or instigate? That's a big question, because we did uncover information and video evidence of Metropolitan Police officers encouraging people to go into the Capitol. Right. That's very concerning. But of these informants, if they were paid to inform, what information did the FBI actually get from them? How did they not know that this was coming if they had that many paid informants? I believe they did know it was coming. And what information did they gather? What intelligence did the FBI have in the days leading up to January 6th? And what information did they pass along to the Capitol Police? Because, look, Chief Sund was caught flat-footed. Yeah. Even though he was trying to prepare, we know there was political involvement in his decisions. His request for National Guard backup that happened several times before January 6th was continually shut down until there were actually shots fired in the Capitol. But what intelligence did the FBI or Department of Homeland Security or the Pentagon or the CIA, all of these intelligence agencies, what intelligence did they have and what did they do with it?